Hi, everyone. My name is Lily, and I am the Administrative Assistant for the Great Smokies Writing Program. Thank you so much for joining us for the first Writers at Home of 2021. Before we get started with today's reading, we have just a few quick announcements. First of all, a huge thank you, as always, to Malaprops for giving us this place to gather as a community of writers. It's hard to believe that a year ago we were gathering in the cafe in person with no idea about the challenges on the horizon. But as a community, we've come together, we've supported each other, and we've adapted to overcome those challenges. And Malaprop's offering us this virtual platform to continue to share our writing and hear from members of our community has been a true gift, and we are always grateful for their support. Our next announcement, Great Smokies is once again administering the Thomas Wolfe Fiction Prize by the North Carolina Writers Network. So if you have a piece of short fiction that's 3,000 words or less, please consider submitting it. Therese Ann Fowler is our guest judge this year. The winner will receive $1,000 and a possible publication in the Thomas Wolfe Review. You can read the rules and guidelines at NCWN's website, that's ncwriters.org. And the deadline for all submissions is January 30th, so please check it out and share your stories with us. So last but not least, a short shameless plug, we have space available in our spring workshops, including those led by almost all of the faculty we'll be hearing from today. So Vicki's class is sadly full for you, but if you want to write with Annie, Luke, Mark, or Eric this semester, you can check out their course descriptions and register on our website, and that is greatsmokies.unca.edu. So enough of all that, let's jump in with the readings. Our first reader is Annie Frazier Crandell. Annie lives here in Asheville. She works as a freelance editor, a fiction reader for Longleaf Review, and has previously taught classes for Great Smokies Writing Program and Flatiron Writers Room. Her fiction and poetry can be found in Appalachian Review, Paper Darts, Hypertrophic Literary, Longleaf Review, North Carolina Literary Review, Still the Journal, and elsewhere. Annie's work has been nominated for the Pushcart Prize and Best Small Fictions, and has been a finalist of Best of the Net. This spring, Annie is teaching First Flash and Beyond, a class on flash fiction for writers of all stripes, whether you're just interested in flash fiction or whether you want to generate a bunch of new writing and maybe expand it into a longer short story or novel. So Annie.
Hi, thank you so much to Malaprops for having us. Since I'm teaching flash fiction this semester, which has been kind of a dream of mine for a while, so I'm really grateful to Great Smokies for letting me do that. I'm going to read a flash of mine that was published a couple of years ago at Longleaf Review, which is a magazine I loved so much that now I work for them. So this story is called All of Us Animals. We're freshmen, 14, 15, 2 weeks living away from our mothers, and we think we're women now. Our new school's all slate roof, dust-scented brick buildings, white paint layered thick on wood window trim, poplars and oaks planted in rows, kudzu gobbled maintenance building out back. Generations of girls have learned here. First few batches, true belles for sure, all hoop skirts and ringlets, corsets and parasols. Nowadays, there's hardly even a dress code. School's happy enough if we just keep our soft parts from overflowing the bounds of our clothes. So we test limits in the other direction, quit wearing makeup, roll out of bed and stumble to class in PJ pants and bunny slippers, greasy hair yanked back tight. Feels good. Our mothers would be appalled. We go to chapel 3 times a week to whisper sing hymns, kneel and mumble holy words, Lord's Prayer, Apostles' Creed, Amen. We line up together to take the wafer and the juice, swallow them as metaphors. Freshmen get a 3rd floor lounge across the quad, and we paper the walls with torn out magazine pages. Boys everywhere, actors, singers, models, bodies hairless and hips slim, leaned against palm trees. 1,000 gazes follow us always. We think we wish they were real, prowling among us while we swap nail polish and complain about our mothers. We try to hide our wants and confusions, hair flip, lip curl, eye roll, but some days we lay ourselves wide open, refuse to hide a damn thing, drink too much sweet tea at lunch, race the halls, bounce on the lounge couches like little hooligans, sing along to Tim McGraw, all of us wanting something like that, boy remembering lipstick and a mini skirt for 5 years. Real boys get bussed in all the way from Asheville for our first dance. Us girls moved as a herd against one wall of the dim-lit dining hall, hair curled, dressed in the Lily Pulitzers our mothers mailed. Frosty eyeshadow swiped heavy, lashed to brow. The boys are all floppy hair and boat shoes and awkward angles. One girl says there's no point dancing because who wants a long distance relationship anyway? And we nod at her wisdom. We forget those boys by Wednesday. By Halloween, we're bleeding together each month, lending and borrowing supplies, wrappers crinkling under bathroom stall partitions. We kick through new fallen poplar leaves and make a pact to quit shaving our legs until winter formal. We succeed, all of us wild women, all of us animals. Winter descends and the sky is a gray dome and rain freezes as it falls. We eat for warmth despite the overactive radiators. Caged and restless, we splinter into factions. We yelp and claw, tear limbs, lick wounds. We break each other's hearts, sew up silent. Mean and bleak, hairy and grubby, we ride out the cold. Slowly, spring seeps in. Dogwoods, branches still black and twiggy, sprout tight folded purple buds all across campus, and we are starved, wild, ready to hunt. First warmish afternoon in months, we jostle and lift the squeaky lounge windows, and one girl mentions that her brother, a sophomore across town at State, will pick her up from school today. She shouldn't have told us. Spreading the news of an incoming boy, we turn feral, turn our eyes to the quad, eager, ready. When we spot him, we lean our top halves in bunches of 3 out of windows into pollen yellow air. We whistle and howl, voices echoing off the bricks. Girls downstairs join us, then girls in the dorms. We surround him. Like coyotes, we make our voices bigger than our bodies. We're giddy and wild and shaggy, and we show our teeth. Down on the grass, he's a trembling tiny rabbit whose pulse we can see pounding from here, a morsel we think we'd gnaw raw if we caught him. His face goes red and he pulls his baseball cap low over his eyes. His sister, also a blush, rushes downstairs to meet him, and together they hurry toward the parking lot. We fall silent, uncurl lips, hide long yellow teeth. Perched now on windowsills, we watch them and whisper to each other about the curls of dark hair springing out from under the boy's hat, the gorgeous sloppy untuck of his t-shirt, the faded cloth of his chucks, the incongruous khakis. One of us declares that the khakis must be ironic. We invent vulnerabilities, desires, hobbies, and we marvel at the complexity of this boy we've made. How smart and gentle he is. What a big heart he has. In unison, he and his sister close the doors of his silver Civic, and then one of us lets out a mournful, keening yowl. We all join, and together we sing the might of our girl pack. What we don't consider, the knot of wolfish college boys with which this boy roams. We know nothing of their hunts and their kills, their raised hackles, their strong jaws and sharp claws, the better to split us wide open with. We're just a bunch of fluff-tailed pups, yapping and barking for fun. Bricked safe in our towers, we're unaware how brittle our bones are, how yielding our soft bellies, how easy we'll be to catch and consume.
Thank you, Annie. That was really wonderful. Our next reader today is Luke Hankins. Luke is the author of 2 poetry collections, Radiant Obstacles and Weak Devotions, as well as a collection of essays, The Work of Creation. A collection of his translations from the French of Stella Vinici Radulescu, did I get that right? A Cry in the Snow and Other Poems, was released by Seagull Books in 2019. His work has appeared in numerous periodicals, including 32 Poems, American Literary Review, New England Review, Poetry International, and World Literature Today. He also serves as senior editor at Asheville Poetry Review and is the founder and editor of Orison Books. This spring, Luke is teaching the poetry workshop Reading Poems Like an Editor. Students will analyze both published poems and collections of 5 poems submitted by students. So if you're looking to publish a chapbook this year, this is the class for you. All right, Luke.
Thanks so much, Lily, and thank you, Stephanie and Malaprops. It's always a pleasure, and I'm happy to be reading with the other faculty members here. Thank you, Annie. That was a wonderful short story. I love the humor and the serious undertones underlying the humor. It was very well balanced. It was beautiful. Thank you. I'm going to read a handful of poems. I'm going to start with two newer poems, and then I'll read a few from my latest book. This is a poem called Synapse. To hypothesize is the luxury of philosophers and poets, a privilege the man in Beirut who tackled the suicide bomber last week did not share when he made the decision to die for those around him. To be or not to be. Synaptically, the quandary lasts milliseconds. In it is no philosophy, only an instinct, greater than any poetry. Another shorter recent poem called Category Error. Category Error. Hummingbirds are fighting over the flowers in the garden again because beauty doesn't make anything immune to cruelty. Imagine a world in which each beautiful creature could be trusted. And isn't each creature beautiful? The sleek, streaked coat of the tiger, the iridescent scales of the snake, the shockingly blue eyes of the shooter on the evening news. I'll read a few poems here from Radiant Obstacles collection that came out in August. My second, and I'm going to start with a poem called Wake. It has an epigraph from Sir James Jeans, who wrote, "The universe begins to look more like a great thought than a great machine. Wake. Then, dear Lord, what so troubles your dreams? Continents rise magnificently from the sea and grow green, seethe with plants and animals. But Lord, they age and decay, disembowel or swallow whole to digest slowly or plant their eggs in one another's flesh, in this dream from which, I pray, you'll wake. My childhood friend was born with holes in his heart and died at 30, afraid, trembling, Lord. Are you trembling in your sleep? Wake. I stood by his open grave, prettified with astroturf. And 70 people died at a funeral in Mozambique yesterday by drinking beer contaminated with crocodile poison. And crocodiles are poisoned because they were born with teeth and hungry and strong. A man crying, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, I can't breathe, provokes not the slightest adjustment of the policeman's grip, and he drowns in broad air. Why these tortured thoughts? Because we are so in need of comforting, I long to comfort you. Wake into a better state of mind, into whatever light warms the world in which you sleep. Do not let your heart be troubled, and cease to trouble ours. Wake, undream us. Started on a somber note with all three of those poems. That's pretty typical for me, so I don't know if I should apologize or just say that that's frequently, my poems are frequently on the somber side. But here's one that's less somber, a little more playful, a little more romantic. If I can find the right page. I had the wrong one marked. 1 second. This one will work. Still somber, but not as. Even the river. In a constant murmur of leaves and branches, the mountains have been speaking to me about how you left them. Cardinals flashing in and out of branches, signaling in red semaphore their grief at your departure. All of nature seems to address and blame me. I walk around holding out my hands, palms upturned in a gesture of bewilderment and surrender, suggesting my innocence, but also my willingness to hold the guilt that finds no other place to rest. I go out at midnight to comfort the river near the tracks where the trains pass in a slow, unrelenting fury all night, the spark of metal on metal, winding through the dark, blaring their enormous questions that I don't know how to answer. And even the river resists my touch, like a small child who continues to feel slighted, no matter how long her father sits by her bed, stroking her hair and singing. I'll finish with one more. This is not seasonally appropriate right now, but it's called Spring Prayer. Allow me to accept this April afternoon's sunlight, warm on my arm, that simple delight for what it is, pleasure without price. Let me release my grip on guilt for just this little while. I would not dim this bright touch by hiding in the shade of my heart. Let spring arrive here too. May I forget to not bloom and forgive my constant requests for forgiveness, even now, tainting this warm moment. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Luke. Those were all powerful. I remember the first time when I read Category Error when you sent it to us, I was just blown away. So I think this is definitely the moment for poetry. So if you're considering taking a class this spring, please consider writing with Luke. It would be a fantastic opportunity. We will next be hearing from Mark MacNamara. Mark has written for Nautilus, Salon, the Stanford Social Innovation Review, and Vanity Fair. For the last 9 years, he's been a senior writer with San Francisco Classical Voice, and many of his pieces also appear in archjournal.com. Mark has won awards in both fiction and nonfiction, including annual awards from the San Francisco Press Club. He began his career at the University of Virginia with the great short story writer Peter Taylor. This spring, Mark is teaching Slouching Towards the Zeitgeist, an intro to feature writing. If you are interested in journalism or just learning how to craft compelling nonfiction, you won't want to miss this one. Okay, so Mark.
Hi. I wrote a piece for San Francisco Classical Voice, which played last fall in September. And it's a 7,000 word essay. I'm going to read just a few bits of the beginning. It's called The Last Drinking Fountain, the Struggle Against Systemic Racism in Classical Music. I am not the right person to recount the struggles of Black musicians to play in the country's great orchestras. So I am reminded, how could you be, comes the scold from both Blacks and whites. In your whiteness, are you not another example of the systemic racist? Sure, you're no Big Ricky Rathbone, longtime listener, first-time caller, pulling his Southern Cross down country roads in an F-150, yelling out MAGA dittos during the Rush Limbaugh show. But how different is the good journalist with blue bumper stickers, kind eyes, and sanctimony? Isn't he or she more dangerous in a way, more insidious, deaf to their own bias under the stern brow of fairness, but all the while blithely co-opting and profiting from the personal stories of Black artists for their own ends, their own pursuit of self-respect, but rarely in recognition of what's required for institutional change in the classical music world, which is drastic action, relentless reform, and most important, recognizing racism finally, not as some ethnic flu, but as another virus that no matter what you do, will never quite go away, such as the notion of systemic bias in journalism. And true enough, although I would argue that the stories and the history The history, as soprano Laquita Mitchell kept repeating to me a few weeks ago, are more important than the storyteller. Everybody does what they can. I am neither sociologist, pundit, or diversity trainer. Commentary is best left to the likes of Robin DiAngelo, author of White Fragility, which has become required reading in many quarters of the classical music world lately. I am merely the afternoon courier bringing old news to those who don't know the travesties or have forgotten. This may be news, may also be news for some younger Black musicians looking for solace in the common experience of so many. But really the news here is for a white audience, some of whom, even after all this time, still feel a little uneasy listening to Black musicians play Beethoven and Wagner, or any number of Black composers for that matter. An audience that, despite its progressive conceits and the best of intentions, often, not always, but often doesn't see itself as part of a system, much less a racist system. And what is this racist system? It's what Lee Pringle, founder and artistic director of the Color of Music Festival in Charleston, which features an all-Black orchestra, it's what he calls the last drinking fountain. It's that nearly impenetrable network of mostly white donors, directors, presenters, producers, administrators, board members, academics, Blacks, critics, union representatives, other musicians and teachers, and their teachers before them, each with classically trained sensibilities and prejudices, back down through the hallways of expectation and promise, and always optimism, a network tied to the privilege of possibility, beginning with the grooming rituals and those mostly Asian and white middle-class parents who follow the cultural habits of their parents and so consign their children to music training at an early age. In the system, support is assumed. And when the question arises, the answer is predetermined. Oh, honey, $1,800 seems like an awful lot of money for an oboe, but I guess we can always find the money somewhere. And so begins the march. The route is fixed. Whites and some ethnic groups follow a progression of youth orchestras and schools of the arts, Aspen and Interlochen, for example, and then are more often paired with principal musicians in local professional orchestras. Meanwhile, young Black musicians inevitably draw attention to their raw talent, but can't afford the coaching and mentoring to help develop technical expertise to help direct the way through the audition maze. Having little or no experience in a youth orchestra, they arrive in college music departments with, as one musician put it, a lot of heart and personality, but may not catch every note. The effect of this closed system is that it's pervasive, ingrained, and needlessly exclusive, a monoculture culture that white audiences often don't know much about or frankly seem to care much about. What's ignored is that of the 1,200 orchestras in this country, including some 2,300 musicians, less than about 2% of the members are Black. And so why? Why doesn't the percentage ever seem to change? Anyango Yarbo Davenport is a 36-year-old violinist who grew up in Munich, the daughter of an international concert singer from Shaker Heights, Ohio, and a noted Austrian violinist and conductor. He died when Anyango was 10, leaving a legacy of aspiration, respect for discipline, and expertise. Lee Pringle calls Davenport's talent the elephant in the room that nobody wants to talk about. She's won several competitions, he told me, but the darlings of the world that these big orchestras go after are not biracial Black women like Anyango. They're white females, white males, Asian women, and tons of European whites that get all the invites to play concertos. The truth is, she can play them all against the wall. Davenport knows adversity, including those auditions where racism is often in play, but not all the judges in the decision-making room are on board with it, and so things get leaked out. And she told me this. Like the time I got into the finals of a full-time orchestra position, and then the screen is removed, and it's like—
Mark, 1 second, I'm so sorry. I think something is touching your mic. Can you check and see if your paper is touching your mic? Because it's causing a little bit of interference.
Sorry.
Oh, you're totally good.
Like the time I got into the finals of a full-time orchestra position, and then the screen is removed, and it's like, oh no, we don't want candidate number 2. Suddenly they don't want candidate number 2, even though candidate number 2 won, and that was me. It's all part of a culture of estrangement when the symphony director explains rejection by saying, The problem is we don't know how to market you when you've associated as a Black person with a certain type of music. And therefore that must be all you can sing. When you're the only Black person in a famous choir and everybody gets makeup but you, when at an embassy cocktail party in front of the prominent Black musician, an Austrian diplomat tells a joke with the N-word, when a security guard blocks the backstage entrance asking the Black musician, "Can I help you?" When you never, ever, ever see people behind the scenes who are Black. When the donor says, "You people have jazz and rock and roll. Why can't you leave the classical to us?" When you decide to alter your name to improve the chances of getting an audition, Robert L. Davis is principal clarinet at the Cleveland Opera Theater. From time to time, he's taken steps to hide his race. My middle name is Lamar. I've taken that off my resume. I put Robert L. Davis instead. That sounds more neutral. I've also changed other things that relate to color. I played a concert for the National Association of Negro Musicians and took that off as well. Sometimes the racism is unbelievably blatant. This is the dark heart of the system. Brandon Keith Brown is a Black conductor in Berlin, a Peabody Conservatory career grant winner, and some would say an agent provocateur in the world of classical music. On a Saturday night not long ago, he went to the Chicago Lyric Opera to hear Renee Fleming. As I took my seat, a plump, heavily jeweled white woman scrunched up her body as if I had the coronavirus. "Go sit somewhere else," she said. That's not a paraphrase. That's exactly what she said. I ignored her and looked straight ahead. She must be joking, I thought, but then she said it again. "Can you just go sit somewhere else?" When I told her not to say another word, she piped down, but the damage was done. Brown left at intermission. The concert hall, he told me, is a magical place, able to deliver spiritual sustenance through music. Yet rather than doing that for everyone, classical concerts continue to exist as a sonic refuge of whiteness. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. I'm so sorry for the interruption, but your mic was fantastic afterwards. That was a beautiful piece. I'm such a big classical fan. I'm gonna have to find the rest of it. You said it was The Last Drinking Fountain was the title?
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. Let's see. So our last reader for today, Vicki sadly has internet trouble, won't be able to join us. So our last reader will be Eric Steineger. And Eric teaches English at Mars Hill University. He is the senior poetry editor of the Citron Review, while his poems, nonfiction, and reviews can be found in such pieces as Waxwing, Rattle, The Poets Respond, Asheville Poetry Review, The Night Heron Barks, Journal of Black Mountain Studies, and other places. His chapbook, From a Lisbon Rooftop, chronicles the themes from Portuguese poet Fernando Pessoa's Book of Disquiet and is available at Plan B Press. This spring, Eric is teaching Black poets of the 20th and 21st century, exploring the impact and contributions of Black poets to the poetic canon from the Harlem Renaissance to today. And each week, students will write a poem in the style of or in response to poet studies. And today is also his birthday. A very happy birthday to you, Eric. We won't embarrass you by singing, but thank you again for taking time out of your day to read with us.
Yes, thank you to Malaprops and Stephanie, and to you, Lily, for having me and all of us today. It's nice to be in a community of writers and be able to see some faces and hear these beautiful words. So I'm going to read 2 poems today, and the first one is not so serious and it's kind of fun, and then I'll end with something a bit more serious, I guess. So this poem was published last year in The Night Heron Barks, a journal of which I'm fond. And I'll just go ahead and read it. It's called Barge. Not quite an island, not quite a boat. You, barge, exist only to haulers or poets like me. An ecology of iron floating downriver. On the bank, we'll pause to study your features for 3 seconds. On your face, a V-shaped wire called a bridle, gunwale's absent color, a towing thing like a monster from your hull. It's smart to wear gloves on a barge. It's smart to wear gloves. But what is ugly can be beautiful. Apparently some barges dress for occasions, like on the canals in Venice. Once I did a shoot on a barge in San Pedro, wore a black overcoat like James Dean. Oliver took photos. Everything was fine until cops showed up. Let's not forget what you do. Carry cargo on water, sometimes to different countries, in which case a carnet is signed. In transit, a ghost. On arrival, a ghost no more, a quantity. Some barges are small. What happens to a barge when it dies? Maybe the junkyard turns garden. Nothing abandoned goes unclaimed, though I want to, again, set foot on you, barge. One step from wreckage, one step from marvel, bringer of bulk, inspirer of calluses. Nothing exists like you. So I'm teaching a class on Black poets in the spring, and I hope you'll consider taking my class for those of you out there. I definitely do not purport myself to be an expert on Black poetry, and I can only get so close to really truly knowing what I'm talking about with that subject. But I have really studied Black poets in different eras, and I think that the class is going to be really quite something. And trying to find some lesser known poets that have not been traditionally part of the canon to bring into that class. So I think it should be very exciting. This last poem that I'm going to read, I wrote it. I started writing it last summer, thinking of Black Lives Matter and political tensions and upheaval in our country, and just life during the pandemic, and got it to a place where I was pretty happy with it. And then January 6th happened. And I think I'm going to have to write about that and try to bring that now into the poem, but consider this more of a retrospective of some events that happened in 2020, with hopefully more to come. But it's a poem in 5 parts. It's called Pentaptic in Any Town, USA. 1. Habitat normal. Even the trees dream of moving away. A few feet, there, by that ray of grass, dreams of a real yard. Even the trees observe the traffic of the day, a streak of yellow flowers. Even the trees consider weather and do not mind if their feet scratch another's itch. Even the trees tire of being chaperones and marvel at the sound of planes. Though they cannot crane their necks, they listen, the trees, to tongues without distraction from the luster of devices. Even the trees rouse to anger and hide standing up. 2. Urban renewal. Inadequate light, the grid reveals the usual markers. Grocery, church, gas station, others with their expertise. Inadequate light, the city looks more or less preserved, though a drive downtown reveals scant construction, windows boarded, graffitied brick and opens where the precinct breaks down. People wear masks for peaceful protest. Black, white, LGBTQ, old and young. Who denies the right to assemble? Police who reach for the baton, but police who lay it down. To weaponize choice, to step off the concrete. 3. On change. Conventional wisdom says stay, don't rock the boat, keep alive the American dream. Let the recovery commence, though some are summoned to the front. The multitaskers of our time pursue goals while their circles purple with conventional wisdom. So many dollars deflected, so many years under the knee. Let the recovery commence with an introduction to neighbors for what is convention but sameness, and openness for an open mood. 4. 2 versus the others. To slow it down like the sky has been doing for some time. It's nothing new, though novel to them, as they limit drink, stay home, Zoom. Forced by mandate, they're reluctant to comply. When routine means the treadmill and TV day and night, they hate this crap. They're going out. They boast a red sign, want to vanquish the other side until there's nothing to discuss privilege as a chain link fence to keep out the friendly suspect neighbors. 5. In a time of art and war. When a witness decides what he, she, they has seen cannot stand and gets involved. Maybe one thing. Orders groceries for a senior. Donates to Black-owned businesses. Here's finally the rising despite attempts to quell its truth. Some tune out like the witness who is committed to fear so completely only the architecture of its body remains. When a witness, desperate for relief, reads local news. When a witness decides on fuchsia for the hallway because why not? Let's see how bright it can get in here. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. I learned something new. I had never heard it was pentaptic. That's so interesting. And I think you did a great job of combining those 5 poems into the images, just like the pentaptic definition that I learned. So this is really cool. And it's going to be a great class. So I'd encourage anyone looking for poetry out there to consider joining either Eric's or Luke's. So thank you everyone again for reading for us and joining us today. If you want to join us for our next reading, it will be on February 21st, I believe. You can keep an eye on Malaprop's website and on Great Smokies website, which is greatsmokies.unca.edu. Thank you all again. I hope you all stay warm and we hope to see you in February.